Welcome to This Moment with Lisa and Caroline. And this morning we are illuminating the core of the feminine force.
Welcome back, everyone. Delighted to have your company here and a special program around International Women's Day. And we're thrilled to have Nancy Steidl here from London, and she's the MD of the Business Mission. And it's an amazing chance to get the wisdom from Nancy about how she empowers women around creating business plans, business strategies, and trademarks, especially for these times. And we really need to empower women in the world. And that's one of our missions too, Lisa, isn't it? To empower women and to bring that feminine force to the world so we can, balance that gender equality across the world. So it's amazing to have you here, Nancy, and so delighted you took the time to come on and share your wisdom with us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this show.
And I love that. Sorry, I was just going to jump in there, talking about business, because I was working with someone the other day and we were talking about her persona and how she was in work and in her mothering. And the concept she had in her mind was that it was separate. And I was sharing with her our inner experiences with us wherever we go. So I think that's why it's so important that we realize that wherever we go, we're always going to be there. And our capacity to bring that feminine force into either business or personal life, it's going to be the same wherever it is, And I'm sure that we're talking a little bit about risks before, so I love that Nancy's on here to talk about planning.
Absolutely, because we were talking about the different mindsets that people have, and sometimes when we have that kind of, or inspiration and fantastic ideas and creativity that I'm always talking about, this tsunami of innovation that we need across the world, it's really important to have help and mentorship to try and bring us and guide us how we can bring those ideas into the world. So Nancy, we'd love to know how you kind of came to, creating the business that you have now in the Business Mission, and what your passion is around that.
Yes, of course. So I really, really enjoy working with people to help them set up businesses. And I did notice a lot of people sort of throughout my journey, and I have done this for about 20 odd years, that people really are interested in setting up business, but sort of don't understand how to set up a business. And I think a lot of the education systems out there really don't teach people how to set up businesses. And it's a system that needs to change. But if we talk sort of about mother and daughter relationships, well, that's very similar to setting up a business in a way. We have this idea we want a child, but in order to have the child, we need to prepare for that child. So we need not necessarily to write a business plan for the child, but the child is in the womb for those 9 months building structure. And so if we compare that to starting a business, writing a business plan and putting the structure together allows the business to come out and start on a fair chance in life. And that's the same with, giving birth to a daughter or a son or a child of any sort. And by that time, when we do a business plan and we have given the opportunity to the child in the womb, then we have to think we need a crib, we need diapers, we need food, and all those things, which are very similar to how we set up a business as well. So I'd like to give the analogy very much in the sense that it's very similar. Anything that you decide to set up as a business needs some sort of blueprint in order to succeed.
Yeah, I love that idea, because it's very much, when you come up with an idea, you're kind of birthing it. It's something new that's never been in the world before. So, it's also, you don't have that plan in place, or you might kind of look to see, there might be companies that might be similar, but they're always unique. You might get kind of inspiration from it. But like if you're bringing something to the world that's unique, like a child, a business plan, it's a great analogy, because you need support around that. You need, finance sometimes, and you need to have a vision for where it's going to go, and also to protect it, and protect intellectual property, especially from the branding world. I can understand that so much, how, it's so important to protect those ideas as well, especially when we're in a global market too, and especially when women are coming kind of, I suppose, with so much innovation nowadays, and we have this global village as such, and women are collaborating all the time and wanting to work with each other and stuff. And I think it's amazing kind of network and support that you can bring to women during these times. Like it's fabulous. And have you found during COVID that there's been a surge in kind of more startups?
Absolutely. And even kind of coming down when you said trademark, when you give birth to a baby, you get a birth certificate. So you have a name for the child, and it's the same with trademarking to ensure that you protect the asset, which is a trademark. You want to really, register a trademark, and registering a business is very different than registering a trademark. Again, you register that you've had a child, but then you register a birth certificate to say this is the child's name. But yes, a lot of my clients are female. And, probably 50 years ago, we didn't have that ability or opportunity. But more and more, there are so many female entrepreneurs out there that, given the opportunity and, again, understanding how to set up a business, they can be very successful in their own right.
That's amazing to hear.
And I've had this real, very interesting reflection lately, which I would love to throw into the ring here. One of the ways that I was taught, because I come from a business family, like my mum and my grandparents, like they all did business. They all worked really, really hard. They made money. It was a real business feeling to the way I grew up. And what I learnt from them was the go, 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 push, 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 do, list, and like you've got to really make it work, and you've got to get up early, and you've got to really put everything in. And I have run businesses like that. Like I ran retail businesses like that. And it's a lot of energy and it's hard work. And what I have been reflecting on lately, the more I come into know myself and the more I come into my true state and more of a flow, what I'm finding is I'm feeling really strongly that there's a better way to do business that is really, really intuitive. And the thing that I'm learning now, which I'd love you to share a little bit more on, is rather than doing this heady thing where we're planning all the time and where we're pushing, how do we do the things that we need to do in an intuitive and very much aligned state?
Yes. And the thing is, there's a wonderful video by Alan Watts which says, oh, well, look, we've gone to grade 1 and now there's grade 2 and you must go to grade 3. And there's this real rush in life. But I work based on law of attraction and manifestation. So I tell my clients when they're starting a business plan, get yourself a pot, get yourself some soil, and get a seed. I think there's this feeling like I must rush to get a business going. And if I give you the analogy of the child again, when the baby comes out, we cannot say to the baby in month 1, you must make me money, because the baby physically cannot do that. So I think a lot of people fail to trust the process. When you start with doing a business plan and you just gently write what you want to achieve, that starts to happen. So there doesn't have to be a push, because a push is a lot of energy. Why would you want to walk up a stream when you can just enjoy the glide down the stream, the flow? And again, we have these expectations when we start business, like the business must do this and the business must do that. And if it doesn't do that, then we start to control the process even more. We just think, why is it not doing it? Must do that. Whereas if we just appreciate, I say drop your expectations and just appreciate that you even had the idea and you started this process. And there is no time limit on it. There's no time. As long as you get up to water the business every day, it will grow accordingly. That's it. It will grow no slower and no less. If you stop watering it and you stop doing work on the business every day, then sure, it will stop growing. But there is no time limit to things. You just need to be present in the present day and harvest the fields every day. And from there, it will, reap the rewards.
Yeah. I love that. And it's funny because, I suppose, especially coming from a traditional branding point of view, and I know I've been kind of doing a course with Conscious Marketer as well in the US, that there's a real shift towards kind of moving into, conscious business. And that's with Flourishbydesign, that I'm interested in that too, where it's kind of, and that's why myself and Lisa have joined forces in this initiative, where it's kind of bringing, conscious education, conscious mothering, all of that to the world. And that's what I connected with you. I felt when I read your website that it very much came across like that even though it's still a business plan, it's still, strategy, it's still like the trademarks, but it's that coming from that conscious kind of creative force, feminine force, where it's kind of supporting what's coming from insight and inspiration and what needs to come into the world now. But how it's, as we call the emergent design process, that it's emerging from what's happening now, because at the moment we're in a huge shift, globally, we're in a massive time of change. Very, it's affecting everyone with COVID, with war, with climate change and everything. So it's a time where there's fantastic possibility as well. So the huge growth time for people who want to grow and want to emerge. And the ideas, and when people have kind of opened themselves up to being kind of inspired and acting out of their inspiration, it's really amazing how you can make connections with people who are like-minded like that. And that, I suppose over the last few years have been collecting the pieces of, people who I feel are kind of along that lines as well, in alignment on those kind of conscious business kind of strategies, conscious sales, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity for people to connect like that with people who are like-minded, to kind of come together and to really bring in, large initiatives that can have global change. Because I think for whatever reason, that individually, like personally, but transpersonally, we've all been through transformations over the last kind of 10 years to get us ready for this moment. And we can see now how that is hotting up globally, and it's hotting up and hotting up and hotting up. It's getting hotter all the time. So like I say to Lisa, that often it's like popcorn. I think, it's time the popcorn is popping, and it's going to pop, when it's ready. And, I think to have people at hand that are able to respond to the times we're in now is the key to us as humanity moving forward and being able to transform, our world into something that we can kind of design consciously, and flourish under adversity. And, I'm really excited about that. And I'm always really excited to meet people like yourself, Nancy, that can support people in those initiatives. So it's just fantastic. And what I'd love to know, like, what has fired you up in that direction? Like, because I know it's not something that's, I know lawyers from being a lecturer in graphic college as well. I have friends that are, barristers in Ireland here, and it's not something that they would normally traditionally, you would have that in your mindset. So I'd love to know, like, what changed you in your direction around that, when you talk about, manifestation and stuff. Is that something that normally goes hand in hand with somebody in the legal profession?
Yes, I mean, I think before you set a business up, you really need to know who you are. It's like a mother really needs to know how to love herself before she can really have children. And I think over the years, where we are now with the world that is more aware of health matters, there's more meditation, like Adriana Huffington, which I really love. She does a lot of meditation presentations, globally, and we come to become more aware of ourselves. And when we become more aware of ourselves, we realize that we don't need to go out. We just need to work on ourselves, and we become the magnet. And so I always say to people, set up a business you really love to do and passionate about, because you'll be with it all the time. And then because you're so passionate about that, what happens is that vibration attracts people towards you. You don't need to go out and say, here I am. You just need to work silently and scarcely within yourself, and you become that magnet. And the more you build those floors in what you're doing, the higher the frequency does, and that's how people see you. So again, if I give the analogy of the house, you do the blueprint at the bottom, which is the business plan, and then you do the marketing floor, and then you do the personality, which is the brand, and you start to get this height. And that is what starts to move people towards you, and then you don't have to use this energy to chase people. Because I don't believe in chasing anything. I just say, it's a bit like we met at a network, we connected, you say, would you like to come on the show? I say, sure. And it's easy. There's no drama.
Yeah.
And so, because I know who I am, you know who you are, we know that. And that's how we have gravitated towards each other. If you ever notice when you go to a meeting and you have a meeting with somebody, whether you come away drained or feel very uplifted, will all be based on the frequency that you have within yourself. So I think I've always been like that. I've just always said, see the vision and just trust the process. And there's always been a net for me, in a way that I'll just go along life filling it up with all the things I want to do. And when I say, I finished a degree last year, and I thought, okay, I need some money to do the degree. How am I going to get that? And I just left it there. And then all of a sudden the money came in and I did the degree. So just don't try to control the process. If you just go with the flow, what's meant to come in your space will come in your space.
Excellent. I love that.
I love that too. And I think that, and I'd like to actually hear more from you on that, how to actually have a plan, right? Because sometimes plans can be plans, but you're also talking about staying in this flow and being intuitive. So sometimes they sound counterproductive, like having a plan and then being in the flow, right? So can you talk a little bit more about how those two concepts actually do work to support each other?
Absolutely. A plan must be flexible. It's got to be fluid. So when you do a business plan, you're not saying, this is it. This is it. It's like saying, I'm going to take all this stuff and get in a rowboat, and that's it. But along that row, you might have a little dolphin come up and say, hello, how are you? What are you doing? Well, I'm going this way. Well, actually, the tide is going that way. Can you be open-minded? Sure. It's not that you're not going to get to your destination. It's just you need to be fluid. So again, you need to drop the control. So when I work with clients to do business plans, it's 12 weeks and we do the full business plan. But I say after we're done the business plan, we leave it for 4 months. And then we revisit it and say, wow, look at all the things we achieved. It wasn't, we had some direction, but of course, this came in and that came in. And we knew it was going to come in because in a SWOT analysis, the threat section prepares you. if a tsunami is about to hit us, what is our options? Well, we're going to stand tall. We've got safety gear, but that's all written in the business plan. So we are prepared to have an action towards that. Now that we hit that tsunami and we're this far ahead in life, what has changed in the business? And again, if I give the analogy of a child at 1 month is very different at 6 months, but it doesn't mean that we've controlled that situation. We've just embraced the changes, and the child hasn't changed, as in the sense it's not our child anymore.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, it's like the integration of what's happening. So you've got the plan, but as life happens, you're integrating the new information or new contacts or new, I suppose, like what you've visioned starts happening, but maybe not in the way that you've imagined it to happen,
Correct.
Yeah.
And also with trademarking, I always advise clients, don't ever trademark a design in the first 3 years. Trademark the name, but you can imagine, again, I give the analogy of the child, is a child's face is going to change in the first 3 years. So it's changed. But when it gets to about 5, it has an identity, a very strong one. So you could then trademark a logo, which would be good till, 5 or 6 years, and then you'll change it again. But that's the wonderful thing about business. Business is very super easy. It's just us who complicated with I want it to go this way, rather than understanding that a business is a separate entity that you merely are guiding. It's a vessel, and it's taking your idea and you're putting it in this vessel and you're taking it out to the world. Now, the vessel is saying, let me take it out to the world and help people. But it might not be the way you want to control it. And that's the joy of, if we look at any big, huge corporation, Facebook was nothing like it started, or Amazon was nothing like it started. But you need to just trust the process and say, I truly believe in this idea, and this idea is going to help so many people. Just let it go there. Just let it go there.
I love that. And that's very much what we talk about on the Feminine Force is, it's kind of the receiving of the idea and then acting on your intuition and then trusting the process,
Correct.
And it's even like when I'm working with mums who have had teenagers, and at the moment, teenage girls are going through a whole lot of challenges, that the mums are feeling really powerless because their daughters are self-harming, or they're depressed, or they're talking about they're having suicidal thoughts. And mums are feeling completely out of control and completely powerless. And the general way that we've been raised in our culture encourages us to behave in those situations is to take control. I've got to take control. I've got to work out what's wrong. I've got to get it to a therapist. I've got to help her figure it out. We're going to make this, we're going to look after it. We're going to, fix this problem. And we get in this place where we end up feeling more and more powerless because we're trying to control the situation, because we're trying to make things right, because at the moment they're not good enough. And interestingly, it's the coming into that paradigm of being in the emerging process with our daughter and seeing it as we're both on this journey. And even though it might not be something we prefer at the moment, this is what's happening. So how can we both be here and learn from it and just trust in this emerging flow? And for me, that process of staying, like reminding myself, I'm in an emerging process with my daughter here. I don't have to fix. I don't have to control. I'm still seeing her true state, and I'm seeing my true state. So I've got my solution sort of, I know who I am, and I know that that's where I'm going to, but I'm not controlling, and I find for me, it's been much harder to do that in business because there are other pressures. So there's the pressure of finances, which is a big one for women. Like the women I'm talking to, it's like, I'd love to give it time, but I have to earn money, So there's and our society, the pressure that is placed on people to be earning and even just have to pay for things, right? So that being able to stay in the emerging process when you're starting a business and not feel overwhelmed or like you have to do something when you have those other pressures come in. I'd love you to talk to that, because I think that is a real life, like it's great to hear these things, but in reality, sometimes it's very, very hard to step into the emerging process when you're trying to pay your rent, or when and that is something that I speak to parents about all the time. So I'd love you to talk to that.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to get really silent sometimes. Like a bee will not land on a flower that's shaking. So when you get really silent, you can actually see more, and it's much more clearer as well. But I think, like anything in life, if you want to buy a house, or you want to buy a car, or you want to have a child, this all costs money. If you dive in to set up a business with not enough money because you didn't plan, that's where you're going to get anxiety. And that's where you're going to get stressed. And again, it kind of comes back to our school system. Someone sees somebody very successful, but they do not know how to structure business. Very few people know the task. You can be the best chef in the world, but if you don't know how to do sales, you're going to have that problem. And that's where you're going to get really stressed. But a mother who wants to set up a business, again, she's got to save, even if it's £1 or £2 or $2 or whatever, put it on the side. And when you're ready, then start the business. Never start a business because you think that business is going to make you money right away, because that's where you're going to deal with anxiety and stress. You expected this baby at 1 month old to make you money. And when it doesn't, that's when you're going to start to panic. So again, if you take a loan out, you can do that. But that money is energy. So what you've done is you've thrown this energy in your space. And if you don't distribute it correctly so that it can get you through 2-3 years of the first year of business, because in theory, a business should not make you money for the first 3 years. So you must take that into accordance when you start a business. You see? So educating these ladies or whoever are starting a business that, look, when you start a business, be prepared that you need another income. So you need to work in order to support yourself, and you'll need another income to support that baby, that child, that business. And understanding that, then people understand, okay, can I afford to start a business? And that gives you more reassurance if you can do a business or not, or you've got to work for somebody else. They start supporting your dream by paying you a salary. You put a little bit away and then start the business.
That's brilliant advice. I really think that's brilliant advice, because it's kind of like a bridgeway to it as well. Because actually that is what stops people from even trying a lot of the time, because they think that they have to give up their job and they have to start a business, and it's
don't
just
ever give up your job yet when you start a business, because that is where you will feel like, again, you look at this child 6 months and say, why are you not bringing me income? And this child's like, I'm only 6 months old. I can't do it. And then if you try to get an investor or somebody, what you do is you start to put this weight of money on this child. Now I've got money, I'm going to weigh this child down. It must work harder for me. And this is where, I did a degree in international business law, and my dissertation was on business plans, and 98% of businesses collapsed by year 3 because they expected this child to walk and never gave it the time to grow the healthy bones and structure so it can run down the line.
brilliant.
Oh, that's so interesting, because I'm a very impatient person and a risk taker, like we talked before. So I'm just listening to this, looking back over my past, going, "Oh my gosh!" I can totally see.
Because got to be patient. Yes.
Yeah. Well, so for me, it's like, but how can I possibly keep going in this job that's killing me when I have a dream and I need to follow my dream? And it's just been like
mentality. That's short-term mentality. For long-term mentality, you must, I think Caroline and I spoke about, You must look ahead in the future and then work backwards to reach that reality. So the short term is, okay, I'll work this job because I want to achieve that result, but it's not going to be forever. You know?
And also, it's like that, when you see the vision and, you actually mightn't have the skills to create that yet. You might need to learn something along the way, and you need to
Yes.
learn a lot. So you're going to have to do a lot of personal growth in lots of different areas. And life will show you that pretty quickly. Once you've made a decision that you're going to do that as well, it'll show you where you need to learn, where you haven't grown, because it's usually out of your awareness, because we only know what we're aware of. We don't know what we're not aware of. And especially if you've kind of have this inspiration to create this vision or this mission, like you call the business mission, which I love, but that that there's certain skills, there's education you might know. Like I know actually, Nancy, you're writing a book as well. Like I'm sure when you start to do that, like there was something you had to learn about how to write a book, to structure a book again. There's a structure to a book as well as a structure to a business. There's things that you need to learn along that road as well. And even for myself, writing a book as well, it's such a process of self-discovery, and it's not so much even writing the book, it's what you discover about yourself along the way as well. So it's like you're becoming the person that is able to bring that mission and that vision to the world, but it's not going to be an overnight process, is it?
No, and also if you decide you're going to be a business owner, be prepared to take courses and learn. Again, if you go work for somebody, you're someone's nanny, right? You're just gone in to help them raise their business. And that person who has the child probably has taken those courses. But like Caroline said, I just finished a creative writing course, a business writing course, and a self-publishing course to understand, look, if I'm going to self-publish this book, what are those options? But when you tapped onto those skills, that's exactly it. I mean, I think I was on Facebook somewhere where this girl wanted to open a ice cream parlor, but she only wanted to open it because she liked ice cream. And I was like, well, you need to go work at an ice cream place to see if this is something you want to spend 10 or 20 years with. If that's the important thing is understand. And if you don't have the skill, it doesn't mean that you can't do it, but you must obtain the skill in order to learn that industry you want to go in. Because like I said a minute ago, you can be the greatest plumber in the world, but if you don't know how to market, you're going to struggle on the marketing. And a business is all those, like a ship, there's a captain, but there is a pantry room, and there is a chef, and there is the mechanic, and all these people make it. But you need to know your ship first before you delegate those roles to those people, or you won't know what's going on in those departments and your ship will start to sink very quickly. So yes.
Just talking to that process, because I think this is very current, and I think it's really important, and I think it's something that maybe we're not taught this whole process, because we're talking about using the feminine force. We're talking about using that flow and using that intuition, but we're also talking about going out and getting information and preparing ourselves and our skills. And I think in the past, and add to this, because I'm sure that you'll have stuff to add to this, but what I'm hearing is that the process of, let's call it conscious business, is like this being in the stillness and feeling what needs to happen next. And in that place, then we get informed. Okay, now I actually can see that there's a gap here where I don't know. I don't have the skills to be able to do that. Okay, I need to go and do that. So how will I do that? And then I come back to my stillness. Okay, what do I need to know? How can I, and you might do some research, and then you come back to your stillness. So for me, what it feels like we're talking about in business is that we're allowing this stillness and the heart space to really lead our decisions, and we're constantly returning to that. And I know that that's something that is not part of the traditional business model. It's very head-based and, controlling, and we work things out. But what we're talking about is coming back into that self, and to just sit with that, to be informed of the next movement.
Absolutely. the more silent you get. And that really, like, you decide one day, it's funny how things sort of appear in your space when you're ready for them. As that saying goes, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. And you sometimes live in a house for 7-8 years, and all of a sudden this feeling, I need to move.
Mm.
And so again, with a business, it's like, you might be sitting there thinking, actually, I would like to set up a restaurant. Now, the challenge is that a lot of people are very reactive rather than responsive. Reactive is impulsive, is panic. Responsive is calm. Okay, I know I want to set up a restaurant. Okay, go within. What do I need? Well, I'll need a business plan. I'll need this. I'll need that. Okay, I start to put all the pieces together and I gradually work on all those pieces. Like you go and build a house, you wouldn't run and get a door. Unfortunately, that's what people do. They go get a social media site, they get a website, but instead, go to the architect and do the blueprint. And in that course of the blueprint, you will see, will this house work for me? Do I want the bedroom there? And actually, maybe this is not the house I wanted. But learning that through the planning process allows you, to save a lot of money, but also starts to build and manifest other directions. Because there's never a failure in life. I find it is a redirection. It's no rejection. It's a redirection. There was never a failure. It's just the universe saying you were not to be on this path. You must go on this path.
Yeah.
But yes, getting very silent. I mean, I meditate twice a day because I just get very still and go within myself. And then all of a sudden, the next day that pops up, or I'll get a phone call from somebody, or, this process happens. And I mean, good example is I've been on social media for 3 years with this, my business. And then I thought, it's very loud out there. I'm going to go back to my marketing. And I started printing some leaflets and dropping them indoors. And then all of a sudden I got a call from someone, would you like to put the leaflets in a magazine? And so it's all about the moment it happens. But if you're not patient and you're scrambling like in desperation, that desperation just gives blockage completely. So you must learn to be patient. Again, get the plant, get the seed, water the plant, and you will see. And that's the same with anything in life, really.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because what I find from, I suppose, the meditation, what happens is it calms your mind. So it allows you to use your executive functioning. So the way I look at it is like the intuition comes in through the heart, but it goes up to the executive functioning. So that's what, so your clarity comes like that. So it's like you're inspired, but it goes up to here. It doesn't go into the, the fight and flight is like what you said, response, where you're panicking, I suppose. So it's kind of calm but clear. You get clarity, I suppose, but it mightn't be as obvious. It's kind of step by step.
Right. I mean, when there's clarity, like if you're in mucky waters, you can't see anything. And also in mucky waters, in your mucky mind, you start to play these stories that don't exist. And that's another thing that I find, that a lot more women or, general people in mind don't start businesses because of this doubtness, which is just, it's an illusion. It's not really, you're just telling yourself, oh, I can't do this business, or I can't start this business because I don't have enough money or anything like that. And it's really an excuse or result, because if you wanted the money, if you really, really want something, you'll find a way. You will find a way. I know one of my business, I sold my house. I lived under a bridge because I really wanted to do the business. And I thought, I can't take my house to the grave, but what I can do is leave something that can help other people out there. So again, it's all just trusting the journey. Sometimes we think that's not right. It doesn't look right. I'm in the most challenging place in my life. I hate it. It's horrible. But actually, that's where you're growing.
Yeah.
And you're really finding out your resilience.
I love what you said then about the muddy waters, because, with my clients, often, I've seen women that have had breakdowns or breakups with their relationship, and they're trying to make decisions. And trying to make a decision when you're in that emotional mess, it's a very bad place to make a decision, because you're not thinking clearly. So it's like you have to be able to do the emotional process and allow the emotions to process, to come back to clarity, because you're making decisions from really unstable foundations. So it's just logical that you're not going to get great outcomes.
No.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back, just be silent. Like if you feel overwhelmed or anxious or feel like, oh, I'm not sure I want to start this business, just stop and just sit in a space and just close your eyes and just breathe in. And you will actually physically gain your own confidence. It's a lot to do with confidence, lots to do with self-love, lots to do with self-esteem when you do start a business. But if you just go within, everything you need is there. Everything you need is there, and just silent. A very, very good woman I follow is Byron Katie. She's
Yeah, she's
absolutely
great.
amazing. I
Yeah.
love her bits. But she asks those 4 questions, and by the time you get to the 4th question, you realize, oh, these are just thoughts. They're not who I am. So but yeah, it really comes down to that. And also the topic of money is like, another sort of thing that we can talk about, but money is energy, and a lot of people don't have a good relationship with money as well. So, but when money comes to you, if it was a person, how do you treat it? And then more will come in. If you don't treat it well, if you just throw it on the side, then you'll have that problem. But money is everywhere. Money surrounds us left and right. So there shouldn't be an excuse, I don't have any money to start a business, because if you just go in the flow and believe that you are on the right path, the money will drop in your lap.
That's a brilliant point, Nancy, actually, because we were talking about that as well. And we were talking about, how women have problems with their valuing themselves, and sometimes that's an issue around money as well, and attracting money and having kind of, I suppose, ancestral kind of heritage around, our attachment to money and work and how we're seen in the world, having money or not having money, and being afraid of attracting abundance and stuff like that. It's a real issue around, even when women are in business and they're trying to step it up or whatever, it's inward again, isn't it? It's like having to go in again. And, I know, Lisa, you were doing some work on that recently.
Oh, that was so amazing. Yeah. On the weekend, I did a family constellation workshop, and I don't know if you've heard about them, Nancy.
No.
They are unbelievable. Like, if I was going to recommend any form of inner therapy, family constellation work is quite amazing. What they do is because we carry a lot of dynamics down through our DNA from our ancestors, and family constellation work actually, in a group of people, will role model, like you have something that you want to work on, and you'll choose people that represent members of your family, and they choose a space in this field that you've created, and they essentially step into the field of that person. And what is so amazing is they actually start to speak like that person. They share the feelings, and you go, wow, that's exactly where that person is. Like, it's so amazing. But what I discovered, because I mentioned my whole family was business, and for me, that has interpreted as, my grandfather and my mother, my mother's very much in her heart, but especially my grandfather, it's very much about workaholism. It's like, just we don't do feelings, it's just we do this, we get on with our life, and we work, and we're not doing those things. And what I realized was, I have those in this constellation. What came out for me was, I have all the capacity, like in my ancestral lineage, to make great amounts of money. I have the capacity to work really hard. But unconsciously, what I experienced as a child was a disconnection. The value that was given to working created a disconnection from heart. And as a child, that landed on me. So my unconsciously, what's been happening for me in business is, there's been this part that I've held back from stepping into that, being able to create great wealth and being able to do, to really fully step into that, because unconsciously there was a part of me that was like, well, I don't want to disconnect from my children. I don't want to do something that takes me away from my children. And so there was this loyalty thing that was actually in conflict within me, the loyalty to making money and doing really well, and this loyalty to connection and to being myself and to feeling my feelings and to being there for my children. So the conflict was like a result. When I saw it, I just went, oh, yes. Like I just saw this level that I was operating on that I wasn't aware of. So it was quite an amazing process.
Yes, I mean, I work with a lot of people that don't understand how to price their services up, which is a really big thing as well, because they don't know the value and worth of themselves. And when they say, like somewhere on Facebook, well, how much should I charge? It immediately shows me, well, first of all, I don't know how much expertise you have and how much value you bring on the table and what your experience is, because that's how you price your prices up. But yeah, that's a really good thing to talk about is, it could be another topic of ours, is the money situation, because that is a whole entire topic to discuss with, I always think money is energy. So, if it comes in very quickly, you don't maybe know how to grasp it correctly. And then if it leaves you, you don't know how to deal with that either. So, yeah.
And that value is a big thing. I see a lot of that in women. It sort of sits underneath that, well, I want to make my services accessible for people. I want to be here for people. I want to help people, so I don't want to overcharge. And I hear a lot of my clients talking like that, like the value thing. So I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, it's a great topic for International Women's Day or Week, because like that, I wonder as well, just thinking about how many women don't step up into the top roles and CEOs and huge corporations and stuff like that.
We could do a whole topic on that.
Yeah,
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely, because it's like they stop just before the very top. It's like, there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect there, and like what you're saying, it's kind of like a separation between thinking that I can't fulfill my function as a mother, as a or somehow the connection will be broken if I step up to that next level. It's definitely something that needs to be looked at, I think, when it comes to women, like globally, because there seems to be something there, doesn't there, that tends to hold us back.
Or if I do, it's almost like the disconnect. I have to disconnect from my heart if I want to reach those top places. And I think that, because heart is so important to me, like, I can totally understand that. It's almost like we have this intuitive sense that we don't want to be like that in the world, but feeling like maybe if we do step up, that's what's going to be created, that's what we're going to become.
But actually the opposite is so true, that women in the world who are conscious leaders, are leading from the heart, are needed at the very top of the corridors of power. So we want women to hear that loud and clear, and that to be supported in all the different areas that they feel there might be blocks, there might be areas that they need support in, that because we need to change the world into this conscious culture for our children, for our next generation and the generations to come, we need women to become fully empowered in their feminine force going forward.
Yeah.
So that is something that needs to be heard and resounded, loudly, that is not something that is a negative thing. It's very, very positive, and it's the most positive thing that can happen, is that we bring conscious female leaders to the top realms of power, the corridors of power. Absolutely.
And that's stepping back into our true state, and really, like you were saying, Nancy, coming back into the true state, and like Nancy suggested, coming through stillness, and also removing the emotions that get in the way of coming back into our true state. So that, I think stillness is just such an important thing. Keep returning to us, keep being in relationship with who we are when we're in business, and dealing with whatever's in the way, which might be an emotion, it might be fear. So how do I deal with that so that I can come back into that still state and get back into connection with myself.
Yeah, and it's
Yes.
often also community, isn't it? You know, connecting with people that are going to keep resounding that in your mind again and again and again and again, because we have been conditioned over and over and over, and we have those programs that are running in the subconscious constantly, and we need to override those programs. So when you're in a community of women that are, you know, constantly kind of modeling, you know, that conscious kind of being conscious creators in the world, that really helps hugely as well. So, you know, that's why we're kind of creating these talks as well, and bringing women into the feminine force field, you know. So it's amazing to have you, Nancy. And
thank you very much. It's been, you know, really lovely to connect with both of you and just, you know, have this conversation. And, you know, it just brings up the vibration really as well, what's going on in the world with how people are starting businesses. And I think the more we're talking about it and our vibration and frequency is moving, everybody is moving that direction as well.
yeah,
So true. And Nancy, where can people find you if they'd like to get in contact with you?
Yeah, it's www.thebusinessmission.com. We have a website, which I've just mentioned. We're also on Facebook. We recently set up in LinkedIn as well. But, you know, even if they got in touch with you, you can put them through to me. And you can find all our services as well on the website. And we do a Talk Tuesday about business every Tuesday at 12 noon UK time in the Business Mission's Facebook page, where I just offer tips and advice, 3 different questions, which people can zoom in on to listen and just pick up. You know, it's just some business tips and advice over the duration of time that I have been in business that may help them as well.
yeah, it's a brilliant,
Awesome.
Nancy. I was listening to them today. Actually, it's really, really great.
Oh, great. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I hope it a little bit. So
There's loads of value there, you know, that you could definitely take away from. You know, yeah, they're fantastic. Well done.
fantastic.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Nancy. You can follow Carolyn and I on social media as well, as you know, and we look forward to speaking with you again. I hope you all have a beautiful day and you've enjoyed this. I've loved this conversation. It's been very enlightening for me. I'm like, okay, this is just so inspiring. Get a plan.
Yeah.
Man, do a business plan before you start any business idea. And honestly, the journey will be so enjoyable for you. It's one of my favorite things. You know, people say you're crazy, you love business plans, but I really do, because I just see the success of them. And, you know, there's less pain then down the line, you know.
Yeah. It's amazing advice. It's fantastic. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you very much for having me both. It's been really delightful, and I shall see you both very soon.
Yeah, and we hope to have you on again. Maybe we talk about money. We have a few new issues that we could talk about.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
to everybody for watching and listening from all
everyone.
around and all the different time zones. And we'll see you again on Friday for our next
live.
Our next live and our gems of wisdom. See you.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye.